The world resolved into chaos. Carmen stumbled, her knees buckling as she was thrown into an overwhelming kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and sensations. For a moment, she thought she was falling, but the sensation of solid ground beneath her feet quickly returned. The air smelled different, crisp, metallic, and charged with energy. As her vision cleared, she realized she was no longer on Carrot's reach. Around her stretched a massive, alien chamber, its walls glowing faintly with the same intricate patterns as the artifact. The architecture was unlike anything Carmen had ever seen, smooth and fluid, as though the structure had been grown rather than built. Suspended in the air were hundreds of spherical objects, each radiating a soft light, shifting and spinning in a slow, mesmerizing dance. "Reza!" Carmen called out, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. Her pulse pistol was already drawn, her knuckles white from gripping it so tightly. She scanned her surroundings, her heart pounding. A faint groan caught her attention. She spun around to see Reza lying on the ground a few meters away. His body twitched as though he were waking from a deep sleep. "Reza!" she shouted, rushing to his side. He groaned again, his eyelids fluttering open. "Carmen," he rasped, his voice weak but recognizable. Where are we?" "That's what I'd like to know," she replied, helping him sit up. Her relief was fleeting, though. The sound of a deep, resonant hum filled the chamber, and the glowing spheres above them began to shift, aligning into a precise, symmetrical pattern. "Human presence detected," a voice boomed, echoing through the chamber. It was the same calm, alien voice Carmen had heard earlier, but now it was amplified, commanding. "Initiating protocol." "Protocol?" Carmen muttered, her grip tightening on her pistol. She stood protectively in front of Reza as the light in the room intensified. From the center of the chamber, a figure emerged. It wasn't human. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, it appeared to be made of the same material as the artifact, smooth, metallic, and faintly glowing. Its elongated limbs moved with an unnatural grace, and its face was featureless, save for 2 glowing orbs where eyes might have been. "State your purpose," the figure intoned, its voice reverberating in the air. Carmen hesitated. "We didn't come here on purpose," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're looking for answers. My brother, he touched the artifact, and we were brought here." The figure tilted its head slightly, as if considering her words. "The keeper has been chosen," it said. "He has been marked." Carmen glanced at Reza, who was staring at the figure in wide-eyed confusion. "Marked? What does that mean?" she demanded. "The keeper bears the responsibility of the cycle," the figure explained. "He will safeguard the continuum." "That's great and all," Carmen said, her frustration mounting, "but we didn't sign up for this. Send us back." The figure didn't respond immediately. Instead, it extended a hand toward Reza. A beam of light shot out, enveloping him in a soft glow. Reza gasped, clutching his chest as strange symbols appeared on his skin, glowing faintly before fading. "What did you do to him?" Carmen shouted, raising her pistol. "The keeper's bond has been established," the figure said, lowering its hand. "He is now linked to the archive." Reza coughed, struggling to catch his breath. "Carmen. I feel different," he managed, his voice trembling. Before Carmen could respond, the chamber began to shake. The glowing spheres above them pulsed violently, and the walls seemed to ripple. The figure turned its glowing eyes upward. "Anomalies detected," it said. "Hostile entities approaching. The keeper must be protected." "Hostile entities?" Carmen repeated, her stomach sinking. "You've got to be kidding me." The figure raised an arm, and a section of the chamber's wall dissolved, revealing a hidden corridor. "Follow this path," it instructed. "The keeper must reach the core. Only there can the continuum be stabilized." Carmen helped Reza to his feet, his weight leaning heavily on her. "What's coming?" she asked, her voice edged with fear. "Opposition forces," the figure replied cryptically. "They seek to disrupt the cycle. You must move quickly." As if on cue, a deafening roar echoed through the chamber. Carmen turned to see the far wall disintegrate as a swarm of shadowy, insectoid creatures poured in. Their bodies were sleek and chitinous, their multiple eyes glowing with a malevolent red light. "Run!" Carmen shouted, firing her pistol at the advancing swarm. The shot struck true, but the creatures barely slowed, their numbers overwhelming. She dragged Reza into the corridor, the sound of the creature's clicking mandibles growing louder with each passing second. The corridor twisted and turned, its walls glowing faintly to light their way. Carmen's mind raced. What the hell had they gotten themselves into? Reza stumbled beside her, his breathing labored, but there was no time to stop. "Keep moving," she urged, glancing over her shoulder. The swarm was gaining on them, their shrieks echoing through the narrow passage. Up ahead, the corridor opened into another chamber. This one was smaller, but no less alien. In its center stood a pedestal, atop which floated a glowing orb. The orb's light was dazzling, its surface shifting like liquid. "Place your hand on the interface," the figure's voice echoed in their minds. The keeper must attune to the core. Reza hesitated, his face pale. "I don't know what's happening, Carmen," he said, his voice trembling. "What if this makes it worse?" "It's already bad." Carmen snapped. "We don't have a choice." Reza nodded reluctantly and stepped toward the pedestal. As his hand hovered over the orb, the creatures burst into the chamber, their screeches deafening. Carmen fired wildly, her shots slowing them down but not stopping their relentless advance. "Hurry!" she shouted. Reza placed his hand on the orb. Instantly, a surge of energy erupted from the pedestal, blasting the creatures back. The chamber filled with light, and Carmen shielded her eyes, her ears ringing from the sheer force of the blast. When the light subsided, the creatures were gone, and the chamber was eerily silent. Reza collapsed to his knees, his hands still on the orb, which now pulsed gently. "What just happened?" Carmen asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Reza looked up at her, his eyes glowing faintly with the same light as the orb. "I know what we have to do," he said, his voice steady for the first time since they'd arrived. Carmen stared at him, her heart pounding. Whatever this was, it was far from over. Reza stood up slowly, the glow fading from his eyes as the pulsing orb dimmed slightly, as if resting after the burst of energy it had just unleashed. Carmen reached out to steady him, her hands trembling. The chamber was eerily silent, the absence of the creatures almost more unsettling than their screeches had been. The faint hum of the alien architecture was the only sound. "Reza," Carmen said cautiously, her voice barely above a whisper, "are you okay?" He nodded, though his expression was far from reassuring. I think so. But it's like, something's in my head. A map, or instructions." He hesitated, rubbing his temples. "I can't explain it, but I know what we need to do next." "Fantastic," Carmen muttered, her sarcasm failing to mask her fear. "Because I'm really looking forward to more running and shooting." Before Reza could respond, the pedestal pulsed again, projecting a holographic image into the air. The glowing figure from before reappeared, its featureless face turned toward them. "The Keeper has activated the interface," it said. "The core's defenses have been reinforced, but the continuum remains unstable. You must proceed to the Nexus." "The Nexus?" Carmen repeated, frustration creeping into her voice. "Could you maybe give us a map or—" As if in response, the chamber walls shimmered, revealing a new corridor that hadn't been there moments ago. Carmen sighed. "Of course. Why not? Just add teleporting hallways to the list of weird alien stuff." Reza managed a faint smile. "At least we're not stuck in one place." "Silver linings," Carmen muttered, holstering her pistol. "All right, let's move before something else tries to kill us." The corridor's walls glowed faintly, lighting their path as they walked. The air grew cooler, and the faint hum of the alien architecture grew louder. Reza led the way, his steps hesitant but determined. Carmen followed closely, her eyes scanning for any sign of danger. "So," she said after a few minutes, "this map in your head, What does it say about the Nexus? Reza frowned, his brow furrowing in concentration. It's not like a normal map. It's impressions, ideas. I know it's ahead of us, and I know we're going the right way. But I don't know what it looks like or what's waiting for us there. Comforting, Carmen said dryly. Let's hope it's not another swarm of those bug things. As if on cue, a low rumble echoed through the corridor. The walls trembled, and a gust of wind swept past them, carrying a faint, acrid smell. Carmen's hand went to her pistol instinctively. What was that? She asked, her voice tense. Reza closed his eyes for a moment, his face pale. Something's coming, he said quietly. Something big. They quickened their pace, the faint glow of the corridor's walls flickering as if reacting to their urgency. The rumble grew louder, and the wind intensified, carrying with it a sound that made Carmen's blood run cold, a deep, guttural growl. They emerged into another chamber, this one larger than the last. The walls were lined with what looked like alien machinery, glowing faintly with the same light as the orb. In the center of the chamber stood a massive structure, a monolithic pillar that pulsed with energy. Surrounding it were several smaller pedestals, each topped with a glowing orb. This must be the Nexus, Reza said, his voice filled with both awe and apprehension. And what are we supposed to do here? Carmen asked, her eyes darting around the chamber. Before Reza could answer, the growl echoed through the chamber, louder this time. From the shadows emerged a massive creature, easily twice the size of the insectoid swarm they'd faced earlier. Its body was sleek and armored, its multiple eyes glowing with a fierce, crimson light. It moved with a terrifying grace, its claws clicking against the floor as it advanced. That's new, Carmen said, drawing her pistol. Reza, any bright ideas? Reza's eyes darted to the pillar in the center of the chamber. I think I need to activate the Nexus, he said. But it's going to take time. Great, Carmen said, raising her pistol. I'll keep it busy. You do your thing. The creature roared, the sound reverberating through the chamber. Carmen fired, her shots striking its armored hide but barely leaving a mark. The creature lunged, its claws swiping at her with alarming speed. She dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack. Hurry up, Reza, she shouted, her voice strained. Reza ran to the central pillar, his hand hovering over its surface. Symbols began to appear, glowing faintly as he placed his hand on the structure. The energy within the pillar intensified, the light growing brighter. The creature turned its attention to Reza, its crimson eyes narrowing. Carmen fired again, this time aiming for its legs. The shots hit their mark, causing the creature to stumble but not fall. It roared in anger, turning back toward her. That's right, she muttered. Come after me, you oversized bug. The creature charged, its movements faster than she'd anticipated. Carmen rolled out of the way, her heart pounding as its claws slashed through the air where she'd just been. She scrambled to her feet, firing as she backed away. Meanwhile, Reza's hand remained on the pillar, his face contorted in concentration. The smaller pedestals around the room began to glow, their orbs pulsing in time with the central structure. The air in the chamber grew charged, the hum of energy almost deafening. Almost there. Reza shouted, his voice barely audible over the noise. The creature roared again, this time charging straight at Reza. Carmen's heart lurched. Without thinking, she threw herself in its path, firing wildly. The shots struck its face, causing it to recoil just enough for her to dive out of the way as it barreled past her. The pillar emitted a blinding flash of light, and the creature froze, its body trembling. Carmen shielded her eyes, her ears ringing from the intensity of the energy. When the light subsided, the creature lay motionless on the floor. The chamber was silent once more, the only sound the faint hum of the Nexus. Reza collapsed to his knees, his hands still on the pillar. Carmen rushed to his side, her breathing heavy. Reza, she said, her voice shaking. Are you okay? He looked up at her, his eyes glowing faintly. The Nexus is online, he said. But this isn't over. We've stabilized the continuum for now, but there's more to do. Carmen groaned, sitting back on her heels. Of course there is, she said, exhaustion seeping into her voice. Because nothing is ever simple. Reza managed a weak smile. At least we're still alive. Barely, Carmen muttered, her eyes darting to the motionless creature. Let's hope it stays that way.